Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the first gag order, sort of, that has now been slapped on Donald Trump. But that is the sort of headline for starters, just that somebody has broken the seal on the imposition of a gag order against him because he continues to spout off all kinds of intemperate and even threatening messages about we're now talking the 4 criminal convictions and the New York fraud trial, which he continues to attend. All right, so we're talking about Justice Engoron, who is presiding over the fraud trial now in its 3rd day. He has, some state judges have this, a kind of regular, permanent career clerk named Allison Greenfield. And they have a kind of a sort of, she's got special standing in the chambers. We're told she sometimes is permitted to ask witnesses questions and the like. So this is really a sort of very close judge-clerk relationship, not like the ones who cycle in and out. Anyway, Trump did a totally nasty and malicious and false, regular Trump cocktail missive on his Truth Social site. There's a picture of Allison Greenfield and Chuck Schumer, probably one of 100 he took that day and thousands he's taken in the last few months. But it has them, as it would be when a speaker comes to visit somewhere. He, gives a big smile, et cetera, and takes a picture. There's one now that Trump got a hold of with Allison Greenfield, and he wasted no time Tuesday in saying, "Look at this. This is a disgrace. You should dismiss my case immediately," referring to Allison Greenfield as, yes, Schumer's girlfriend. So first, a complete lie and a very upsetting one, and then also, who knows what kinds of personal harm that could potentially expose Greenfield to, with the rabid mob that is, ready to respond to Trump's intemperate messages on Truth Social. So Justice Engoron was apoplectic. Now, he didn't dress Trump down in open court. Rather, he brought them into his chambers and he told them, and I'm sure it was this is his home turf and his, probably closest employee. I'm sure it was a very unpleasant conversation, like a principal to a truant child. What do you think you're doing? There is to be zero communication about anybody on my court staff. Obviously, judges are very protective of their court staff who, would be, in a case like this, vulnerable all of a sudden to the broader political winds, cross currents, and even menace that a guy like Trump brings with him. So he totally slaps him around in chambers. We don't know exactly what was said, and we don't know if it was directed precisely to Trump. But then he came out and, so the first thing that happens is that the Truth Social message about her is quickly removed from the site. Now then, when Engoron comes out, he says, "Look, I've issued, you may call it a gag order. Consider this statement." He just said, "I warned everyone, but Trump off the record about making any personal attacks on members of my staff are unacceptable, inappropriate. I will not tolerate them in any circumstances." And of course, he blew past any issue that Trump might want to raise about, it's just First Amendment. It's a pretty good example of the kind of statement, the one that is an issue in the much more important case that's coming up in a few weeks before Judge Chutkan about what statements he might be ordered not to make. But the way the judge put it is personal attacks on members of my court staff. He actually reported that he'd made a general admonition to Trump and others about this Monday, which Trump then ignored. So I'm sure he was like a bull seeing a red flag, ordered it to be deleted, and it quickly was. So a few things. First, as I say, it crosses the threshold. Somebody has gagged, in a sense, Donald Trump. Second, it's a very specific, concrete, uncontroversial sort of gag order. There's no possible First Amendment defense because it's so narrowly tailored. Don't make threatening comments about court staff. Yeah, that's going to hold up against any First Amendment defense. And if Trump were somehow to try to say he needs to do it to run his political campaign, that would be laughable. So that's concretely a good sort of first way to go. And we see a judge having had his way with Trump who immediately complied. Now, this has, I think, some resonance for what's coming up. Let's quickly go back to the much more important case of the January 6th prosecution in the District of Columbia before Judge Tanya Chutkan. So the DOJ has filed a request for a limited gag order, but way broader than just don't make threatening comments about court personnel. And they proceeded with a long litany of really very improper comments from Trump, threatening people. Indeed, the judge herself became the subject of a crazy woman in Texas calling up and saying, "We're going to kill you," but also polluting a jury pool, saying it's all a witch hunt, all kinds of things that could be covered by a gag order. But any gag order she's been asked to impose would come closer to the First Amendment line. Basically, what the DOJ is looking for is you can't talk about witnesses. You can't talk about any personal, actual people involved in the prosecution, and you can't trash it in a way that could pollute the jury pool. That's the sort of thing that could gin up a First Amendment defense. But I think if she's careful, and she will be, it would not do so. And I think she's probably really carefully running the traps with her colleagues on the DC district bench before doing it. But I think it helps some that, they've kind of opened the genie's bottle, as it were. Somebody has stepped forward and gagged Trump in a very uncontroversial way that would certainly hold up on appeal. And it just makes it easier. And it's evidence, right? It shows when there's going to be a hearing now, October 16th, and I think it could well come up. Even here, after he was told, don't say stuff about court personnel, he did it, right? So that's the Engoron gag order is really setting the table in the broader scheme of things for what's going to happen in Chutkan's court. And remember the broader dynamic here. I think she will impose a gag order, but the real issue is how all these judges kind of organize their ability to go from here to here. Here is into jail, Trump. And Engoron could put him in for 30 days under New York law if he continues to have contempt for his orders. Now, nobody wants to do that right away. They want to have as much time as possible to exert leverage on Trump, because once you pull that trigger, there's no going back, and it would be a deeply controversial move. But I've suggested in the past, Trump seems to be spoiling for it. So another point here is that at least in Engoron's court, where he's attending, and seems to be deeply concerned with the impact on his vaunted and apparently totally bogus brand, he immediately complied. So this is a good sort of bellwether to think about. The hearing that Chutkan set is not for a few weeks, October 16th. And I've suggested before that's in part to give Trump an opportunity to straighten up and fly right and stop all the crap. If he comes in with a 2-week record of having kept the intemperate comments out of the public eye, the possibility of a more reasonable, more tempered gag order comes to the fore. If, on the other hand, he doubles down and doubles down again, she's going to have to pull the trigger on something more severe and backed by the threat of really the only threat they have at the end of the day. Very big fines that could do it, but actually a little visit to the pokey. Okay, so the fraud trial that Trump cares deeply about and continues to attend turns out to be the first venue in which he's gagged. Very limited way, but based on a completely fictitious, nasty, malicious social media tweet about the justice's court, closest clerk. So no real surprise. I think there you can expect them to straighten up and not do that more, at least as far as court personnel go. But it's all part of a much, much broader dynamic where either he wants to not run afoul of the court, but still do his campaign, a big plank of which is he's being, persecuted and prosecuted for his followers. Or maybe even, as we've posited based on his conduct, he's just spoiling for exactly that controversy and a kind of martyr's outcome of going to jail, with his hair and all, to spend a couple humiliating days as a way to somehow bolster the electoral prospects that seem to be what everything for him is riding on to try to get out of the unbelievably tight series of legal spots that he's in. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.